For years, most of us believed lottery draws were completely random. But after studying 100 different draws, we started noticing something that kept appearing again and again. Certain numbers moved in strange ways, patterns repeated when they should not have, and some combinations seemed impossible to ignore. At first, we thought it was just coincidence, but the deeper we looked, the more shocking it became. Tonight, we are going to break down exactly what we found and why so many players never notice it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment for extra lottery luck, because the viewers who stay until the end will receive special lucky numbers to try in the next draw. Number 1. Patterns that should not exist. Most lottery players expect randomness. We did too. But somewhere around the 50th draw, something started happening that completely changed the way we looked at these numbers. Certain combinations were appearing again in ways that felt almost impossible. Not exact repeats, but patterns that looked strangely connected. A number would disappear for several draws, then suddenly return beside another number that had followed a similar cycle before. The deeper we tracked these movements, the harder it became to dismiss them as simple coincidence. What made this even stranger was how often these patterns appeared near high jackpot weeks. At first, we thought maybe we were just noticing random connections because we had stared at the data for too long. But after comparing dozens of results side by side, we realized the same behaviors kept returning. Some number groups clustered together more frequently than expected. Others almost never appeared beside each other. It created a hidden rhythm beneath the chaos that most casual players would never notice. And here is the part that shocked us the most. Once we recognized these unusual trends, we started spotting them before certain draws even happened. Not every time, of course, but enough to make us stop and question how random lottery results really are. Most people only look at winning numbers after the draw's over. But what if the real secret is learning how to recognize the patterns before everyone else does? Number 2, the most shocking discovery. There was one moment during our research that genuinely made us stop everything and go back through the data again. Out of 100 lottery draws, we noticed that several numbers were returning far more frequently within short time windows than we expected. We are not talking about a number appearing once or twice. Some numbers seem to disappear for weeks, then suddenly explode back into the draws repeatedly, as if they were cycling through hidden phases. What caught our attention was how these returns often happened after long gaps. A number that looked completely cold would suddenly become active again and appear near other familiar numbers from earlier draws. The strange part was not just the repetition itself, it was the timing. The cycles felt oddly consistent once we mapped them out carefully. Many players chase hot numbers without asking why those numbers become hot in the first place. That question led us much deeper into the patterns than we expected. As we continued comparing old results, another detail became impossible to ignore. Certain groups of numbers behaved almost like teams. When one number returned, another often followed within the next few draws. It created sequences that felt too organized to overlook completely. Maybe it was probability playing tricks on us. Or maybe most players are only focusing on individual numbers while the real clues exist in the relationships between them. That realization completely changed the way we started analyzing lottery draws from that point forward. Number 3, what most players never notice. Here is something almost nobody talks about when it comes to lottery draws. Most players only pay attention to the winning numbers themselves. They look at what appeared, maybe circle a few hot numbers, then move on to the next draw. But while studying 100 different results, we realized the real story was often hidden in the numbers that did not appear. Some numbers stayed absent for surprisingly long periods, almost disappearing completely before suddenly returning at the exact moments people stopped expecting them. Even stranger, some draws seemed to create pressure points where overdue numbers began clustering together. Once we noticed this, we started tracking not only which numbers appeared, but how long certain numbers stayed silent before coming back. That changed everything. Instead of chasing whatever numbers were popular at the moment, we began looking for imbalance inside the previous draws. Sometimes a range of numbers would dominate for several games in a row, while another range stayed unusually quiet. Then, without warning, the pattern would reverse completely. It was almost like the lottery was constantly correcting itself over time. What made this so fascinating was how invisible these shifts were to casual players. If someone only checks one or two draws, they will never notice the larger movement happening beneath the surface. But after studying dozens of results side by side, the trends became much harder to ignore. And honestly, this may be why so many players keep missing opportunities. They are watching the obvious numbers while the deeper patterns quietly develop in the background. Number 4, randomness started looking different. At the beginning of this experiment, we expected complete chaos. We thought every draw would feel disconnected from the last one, with no meaningful relationship at all. But after spending hours reviewing 100 lottery draws one by one, our perspective slowly started changing. The numbers did not feel as isolated as we expected. Certain behaviors kept repeating in ways that became difficult to ignore. One of the strangest things we noticed involved number ranges. There were periods where low numbers completely dominated several draws in a row. Then, suddenly, the momentum shifted and higher numbers began taking over almost back to back. These swings happened more often than we imagined. It created the feeling that lottery draws move through phases instead of existing as totally separate events. Then we found something even more interesting. Some draws appeared to mirror previous ones in subtle ways. Not exact copies, but similarities in structure. Sometimes the spacing between numbers looked nearly identical to older results. Other times, a specific combination style returned weeks later with different numbers filling the same positions. Once we began tracking the shape of the draws instead of only the numbers themselves, the patterns became much more visible. This completely changed the way we approached lottery analysis. Most people search for one magical number that will suddenly unlock the jackpot. But after studying so many draws, we started believing the real clues may come from understanding the overall behavior of the game itself. And the more we explored these hidden structures, the less random everything started to feel. Number 5, the data became impossible to ignore. There was a point during this research where we stopped looking at the lottery as entertainment and started treating it like a giant puzzle. Draw after draw, we filled pages with notes, circled repeated behaviors, and compared results that seemed unrelated at first. The surprising part was not finding one massive clue. It was watching small clues slowly stack on top of each other until the bigger picture became impossible to ignore. One detail kept standing out more than anything else. Certain numbers seemed to pull attention toward nearby ranges. When one number appeared repeatedly, surrounding numbers often became more active shortly afterward. It created waves inside the draws that we never expected to see. At first, we thought our minds were just searching for patterns naturally, but the consistency of these movements kept forcing us back to the data. Then another strange observation appeared. The lottery draws that looked the most random at first glance often contained hidden balance. Odd and even numbers repeatedly settled into similar distributions. High and low numbers shifted back and forth almost like a pendulum over time. Even the spacing between numbers started showing recurring tendencies once we mapped enough results together. What shocked us most was realizing how few people ever study lottery results this deeply. Most players rely on instinct, birthdays, or quick picks without ever examining the history behind the numbers. But after reviewing 100 draws carefully, it became clear that patterns do exist, even if they are subtle. And once you begin noticing those hidden behaviors, it becomes very hard to look at lottery draws the same way again. Number 6, the weirdest lottery sequence. Out of all the patterns we discovered during these 100 lottery draws, one sequence stood out more than anything else. It started quietly with a few numbers appearing close together across multiple draws. Nothing unusual at first. But then the same style of sequence kept returning in slightly different forms, almost like the lottery was echoing itself over time. We decided to track every appearance carefully. What we found became one of the strangest parts of this entire experiment. Certain numbers seemed connected by timing rather than direct repetition. A number would appear, disappear for several draws, and then another number from the same range would suddenly take its place. Later, the original number returned again, almost as if the sequence had completed a cycle. The movement felt organized in a way we never expected from random draws. Even more surprising was how these sequences often formed around specific positions inside the results. Some numbers repeatedly showed up near the beginning of a draw, while others appeared more often toward the end combinations. The deeper we analyzed these structures, the more the lottery started resembling a shifting system instead of pure chaos. At one point, we tested whether these sequences could help anticipate future patterns. The results were not perfect, but several predictions aligned closely enough to grab our attention immediately. That was the moment we realized most players may be looking at lottery numbers too individually. Because sometimes the real clues are not hidden inside one lucky number at all. Sometimes they exist inside the sequence connecting everything together. Number 7, the biggest mistake most players make. After reviewing 100 lottery draws, we noticed something interesting about the way most people approach the lottery. Nearly everyone searches for lucky numbers. They follow birthdays, anniversaries, old winning tickets, or whatever numbers feel special emotionally. But while comparing draw histories side by side, we realized this habit may actually cause players to overlook some of the most important information hidden in the data. The mistake is focusing only on individual numbers instead of overall behavior. When we started analyzing full draw structures instead of isolated picks, new trends immediately became visible. Some draws leaned heavily toward clustered numbers, while others spread evenly across the board. Certain combinations repeatedly balanced odd and even numbers in similar ways. Meanwhile, many players kept chasing the exact same hot numbers without noticing how the surrounding patterns were shifting. One example stood out clearly. There were moments where popular numbers stopped performing entirely, yet nearby ranges quietly became more active over several draws. Casual players rarely noticed because they were too focused on repeating previous winners exactly, but the data suggested movement mattered more than repetition. That completely changed how we interpreted the results. Instead of asking which numbers are lucky, we began asking where momentum seemed to be building inside the draws, which ranges were becoming more active, which patterns were fading, which structures were quietly repeating beneath the surface. The deeper we explored those questions, the more the lottery started looking less like random guessing and more like behavioral analysis. And honestly, this may explain why some players always feel one step behind the numbers. Number 8, when the numbers started matching. Somewhere deep into our analysis, we began noticing moments that felt almost unreal. Completely different lottery draws separated by weeks sometimes shared strangely similar structures. Not the exact same winning numbers, but enough similarities to make us stop and compare them more carefully. At first, it looked like coincidence, but the more examples we collected, the stranger it became. Certain draws contained matching number distances, similar odd and even balance, and repeating ranges that appeared in almost the same positions. It was like seeing echoes of older results quietly reappear in newer draws. Once we spotted this pattern for the first time, we could not stop looking for it everywhere else. One comparison especially caught our attention. 2 draws from different periods looked unrelated on the surface, yet both followed nearly identical movement patterns between the numbers. The spacing was similar. The distribution was similar. Even the overall shape of the draw felt strangely familiar. We started calling these shadow matches because they mirrored previous results without copying them directly. That discovery opened an entirely new way of thinking about lottery analysis. Instead of treating every draw as an isolated event, we started asking whether some draws naturally evolve from earlier structures. Maybe certain patterns slowly recycle over time in altered forms. Maybe randomness still exists, but inside boundaries that create repeating tendencies most players never notice. The fascinating part is that once your eyes adjust to these hidden similarities, you begin spotting them much faster. And suddenly, lottery history stops looking like a collection of disconnected numbers and starts feeling more like a repeating language hidden beneath the surface. Number 9, hot numbers versus cold numbers. Every lottery player has heard the debate before. Some people chase hot numbers because they believe momentum matters. Others avoid them completely and wait for cold numbers to return. Before this experiment, we were not sure which side made more sense. So after studying 100 lottery draws, we decided to compare both behaviors carefully. What we discovered was much more complicated than expected. Hot numbers definitely existed. Certain numbers appeared repeatedly within short stretches and created the illusion that they were unstoppable. But interestingly, many of these streaks ended the moment large groups of players started paying attention to them. Meanwhile, cold numbers behaved in strange cycles of silence, followed by sudden bursts of activity that often caught everyone off guard. The real surprise came when we stopped viewing hot and cold numbers separately. Instead, we began studying how they interacted with each other inside the same draw. Some hot numbers seemed to trigger nearby cold ranges into becoming active again. Other times, cold numbers returned together in clusters after long absences. It created transitions that looked more like shifting momentum than pure luck. We also noticed something psychological happening among players. Most people become emotionally attached to numbers that recently won, even when the larger trends suggest momentum may already be fading. Very few players pay attention to quiet number ranges building pressure in the background. That may be one of the biggest hidden lessons from these 100 draws. Sometimes the numbers everyone is watching are not the most important ones. Sometimes the real opportunity is hiding in the numbers people stopped believing in too early. After studying 100 lottery draws, one thing became clear to us. The lottery may look completely random on the surface, but hidden trends, repeating behaviors, and subtle patterns appear far more often than most players ever realize. And honestly, what we covered today is only the beginning. The next video on your screen dives into the biggest mistakes people make when analyzing lottery numbers, including habits that may actually hurt your chances without you even noticing. If you thought today's discoveries were surprising, that video goes even deeper into the psychology and strategy behind how players choose numbers. So make sure to click it right now. And if you enjoyed this video, do not forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts and lucky numbers. Stay positive, keep believing in your next big win, and we will see you again very soon in the next video.